Hey, this is Brooke, functional medicine dietitian specializing in fertility, and this is the Fertility Dietitian podcast, where I help you uncover the barriers that are preventing you from optimizing your fertility and teach you how to work with your body to finally take home a healthy baby. Each week, I will be diving into different topics on fertility and sharing my perspective on physiology, metabolic health, nutrition, and lifestyle approaches that have helped hundreds of couples get pregnant even after years of heartache. My goal is to empower you with the knowledge you need to take back control of your fertility. Happy listening. Welcome back to the Fertility Dietitian podcast. Today we're diving into ovulation. It's Ovulation 101. We're going to learn what healthy ovulation actually looks like and how to time it right. So if you have been trying to get pregnant and feel like ovulation is confusing or stressful or just a lot, this episode is for you. Today we're breaking down everything you need to know about healthy ovulation. We're going to talk about what ovulation should feel and look like when it's working well, how much cervical mucus is normal and when you should be seeing it, when LH strips should be their darkest, how ovulation is confirmed with blood work and the best time to do that, the best timing for intercourse and how often really makes a difference in success, and why trying more is not always better for sperm health. So by the end of this episode, you should feel confident in knowing when your fertile window truly is, how to identify it, and how to work with your body to improve it if you need to. So let's start by talking about what ovulation is and why it is so important for conception. Ovulation is the release of the egg from a mature follicle. So that egg lives for about 12 to 24 hours after it is released or ovulated. Sperm, on the other hand, can live for up to 5 days in the presence of healthy cervical mucus. This is why timing matters more than frequency and why the fertile window actually opens before ovulation occurs. Healthy ovulation doesn't just impact whether you get pregnant, it also impacts your progesterone production, the length of your luteal phase, implantation, early pregnancy stability. Ovulation is an actual hormonal event, not just a day on the calendar, right? And you probably know this since you've been trying to conceive, but all really important things that actually help us monitor how healthy and strong your ovulation is. So what should we be expecting when we talk about cervical mucus patterns? So cervical mucus is one of the first signs that alerts us to our fertile window opening up. One of the best real-time signs that ovulation is approaching is from the cervical mucus because estrogen starts to rise and cervical mucus is driven by this estrogen rise. So as estrogen increases, our FSH, or follicle stimulating hormone, should be increasing as well, supporting that follicle maturation as you get closer to ovulation. And that fertile cervical mucus is going to be egg white type. So it's going to be slippery, stretchy, clear. It can be slightly cloudy, but the most optimal cervical mucus is going to be real slippery and stretchy. Like you can, if you were to pick it up and stretch it in between your fingers, it's like the white of a yolk of a white of an egg. That's where that egg white type comes from. Not all women have enough to be able to really pick it up and feel it, but you should be feeling that slippery sensation when wiping when you are in your fertile window. As far as the amount of cervical mucus that is normal, this really can vary person to person. Some women see a lot, some women see a small amount only when they are wiping. Both can actually be normal. You just need it to be present. What matters more is the consistency. So is it slippery and stretchy, or at least slippery, and the timing that it is showing up. It should be showing up anywhere from like 2 to actually 7 days before ovulation, or about 6 days before ovulation. If we're having more than 7 days of that egg white type fertile cervical mucus, or that peak fertile mucus, there may be some concerns with your body feeling safe enough to ovulate on time, and what's happening with the lining thickness as well. All right. So this egg white cervical mucus, or peak cervical mucus, should appear about 2 to 6 days before ovulation, and peak right before ovulation. You should see the most or the best quality right before ovulation is going to be occurring. And then it dries up after ovulation when progesterone rises. You should see that as a sign of confirming ovulation actually happened, is a shift in that cervical mucus type. So it can dry up. It can go to maybe more sticky or creamy, or just feel more dry type. As far as why cervical mucus is important, not only does it alert us to that fertile window opening, it actually plays a very active role in nourishing the sperm, preparing it and protecting it for conception. That cervical mucus is really why that sperm can stay alive for up to 5 days waiting for ovulation to happen, but it also filters out the unhealthy sperm. So it's pretty magical. And it's not just kind of this gross thing that happens cycle to cycle. It has a really, really important function for conception. And then it keeps that sperm safe as it waits for ovulation. So if there's no cervical mucus, sperm survival drops very significantly. All right, so cervical mucus is a really, really important sign that we should be seeing cycle to cycle. If you're not, there is an area to start working on. Some ways to improve it can include hydration and mineral status. And also just making sure, honestly, that you're eating enough overall, because a lot of times when we're not producing cervical mucus, our estrogen is off. And if we're not able to create enough estrogen, we're not creating enough cervical mucus either. And eating enough plays a really big role in that, especially making sure you're not fearing fats, because our fats have some really important building blocks for our hormones like estrogen. So another sign that we can use to determine how well ovulation is working and what's going on with our hormones are OPKs, or ovulation predictor kits, that are going to be looking at LH, also known as luteinizing hormone. And they can also look at estrogen too. So when a LH strip becomes positive or gets darker, it is detecting that luteinizing hormone presence as well as that estrogen rise. The LH surges 24 to 36 hours before ovulation. So the test line should be as dark or darker than the control. That's your positive surge. Okay, there is some important nuance here. A positive OPK means that ovulation is likely coming, not that it has already happened. So it's predicting ovulation. That's where the ovulation predictor kit name comes from. It doesn't confirm that it happened. So some women can have LH increases without ovulation actually occurring or being successful or healthy either. So LH is one sign in a handful of signs that we're looking at to determine what's going on with ovulation. Some women surge quickly, while others have longer surges. So sometimes that surge is real short and quick, and it's easier to miss. And other times the surge lasts a little bit longer. You can ovulate in the same day or the next day, or occasionally not at all, because the OPKs are a prediction tool, not a confirmation. Okay, that's important to remember. If we're looking to confirm that ovulation happened, we can use our cervical mucus sign again. So making sure that we're seeing that fertile peak type and then the shift in mucus. Another way to confirm ovulation is using basal body temperature. So, basal body temperature, or BBT, rises after ovulation happens due to the progesterone rise. So, progesterone production actually increases our body temperature, and progesterone is only present at the level that it is going to increase our body temperature after ovulation. Okay, so that follicle that has matured with the egg inside, once it releases that egg, it turns into a corpus luteum. And that corpus luteum is what is going to be producing that progesterone. So basal body temp shift should be a zero point 0.3 to zero point 0.5 increase. And just remember that basal body temperature is not going to be predicting ovulation, but it's confirming that it did happen. And the pattern of your basal body temperature throughout your entire cycle can be really insightful for where barriers are popping up with how overall hormonal health and metabolic health is impacting reproduction as a whole. After ovulation happens, if that increase of temperature happens, we can look at how high that temperature gets, how long it stays elevated, and it can give us insights to what's happening with the quality of progesterone and really, therefore, the quality of the follicles that you're producing and the quality of the eggs that you're producing. Temps should stay elevated for at least 3 days. Honestly, that is only for confirming ovulation happened. For assessing progesterone quality and quality of the egg, we should really be seeing temperature increase and stay elevated for at least 9 days in a cycle. And it might have some minor up and down shifts in that post-ovulatory or luteal phase is what we call that phase of the cycle. But it should remain above what we call the cover line, or the average temperatures that were occurring before ovulation occurred. So basal body temp is really helpful for pattern tracking and confirming ovulation after the fact, but it can't guide timing in real time. You have to use additional signs for knowing when the best time to try is. All right. So confirming ovulation can also be done with blood work. If we are confirming ovulation with labs, we're typically looking at progesterone, and we want to do it in the mid-luteal phase. So about 5 to 7 days after ovulation was thought to have happened. So using other signs is important to pinpoint this. Never just do a blood draw on cycle day 21. Even if you tend to ovulate 5 to 7 days before cycle day 21 in a very textbook cycle, make sure you're tracking at least LH, but ideally LH and your basal body temp, especially if you don't have clear cervical mucus patterns going on. But we want to confirm that ovulation happened, hopefully with as an at-home option before we're going to get our blood drawn, just to make sure we're testing at the appropriate time. And it's always going to be between that 5 to 7 days after ovulation. Ideally, we're seeing progesterone levels at 12 or higher. We know ovulation happened if progesterone is above 10, but a really optimal range is going to be between 15 and 20 nanograms per milliliter for progesterone in that mid-luteal phase. It's associated with stronger ovulation and a good luteal phase support. And that window that you're testing progesterone is actually the implantation window, or the very beginning of the implantation window. And we need that progesterone to be really good quality. If you're not there with progesterone, it doesn't mean you can't get there. It doesn't mean that you automatically need to be taking progesterone. It's a sign that your body is giving you that egg quality is something that needs to be nourished, and it can absolutely change really cycle to cycle, but giving your body a good 3 to 4 months to really boost that progesterone with nutrition and lifestyle changes can make all of the difference. And I do have podcast episodes a little bit more specifically on egg quality, but really like all of the resources that I provide are going to be in support of improving egg quality. And as always, there's always a very individualized level where we can uncover barriers getting in the way of egg quality and progesterone support as a whole, if you are interested in diving deeper in those. But low progesterone is definitely a red flag to pay attention to and not just necessarily put a Band-Aid on, because there's other things in your body that are going on that are going to be taking away resources and energy from reproduction. Okay. Low progesterone can often reflect blood sugar imbalance, stress, nutrient issues, or depletion, really. And then, as I mentioned, poor follicle development or health, and just suboptimal ovulation. So that's really where that quality of the egg comes in there. All right, so we have our cycle signs to pay attention to: your cervical mucus, if you want to do LH tracking, and your basal body temperature. A blood draw can be an extra check for what's going on with progesterone, especially if you're not real clear on how to use the basal body temps for mapping out what's going on with progesterone. So once you're getting familiar with all of those signs, you can pinpoint the best day to try for the highest success of conception. The single best day to try for conception is going to be the day before ovulation, when egg white cervical mucus is present and at its most. Because the egg is not yet released, and we want the sperm to be ready and waiting for ovulation to occur. Fertilization can happen immediately upon the egg being released. And the next best day to try would be the day of ovulation. So once ovulation has passed, chances drop really rapidly, because that egg is not going to be viable for very long. How often should you be having intercourse in your fertile window for success? Okay, so we just talked about the best day to try being the day before ovulation. If you're wanting to have more sperm there available, there's really some nuance to this, especially when we're thinking about the health of the sperm. During your fertile window, every other day works well for most couples. Daily intercourse can be helpful if sperm parameters are strong. However, daily ejaculation can actually lower sperm count and concentration. And men with a lower count or lower motility or even lower morphology often do better with every other day timing. The quality of the sperm is definitely going to be important in success. So it's really more important than the quantity or the amount of sperm there. It really only takes one sperm in order to have successful conception occur. So if your male partner has not looked into the health of their sperm, that is also a really important thing to get ironed out. And of course, we're looking at fertile sperm parameters, not just quote unquote normal sperm parameters. So what is typically thrown out there is pretty low and would have been considered infertile just 50 years ago. So I have some deeper dive podcasts on sperm health if you want to dive in and learn more about those as well. So if you are having intercourse 2 to 3 times in the fertile window, with at least one time being the day before ovulation, that you're doing great. Your chances of conception are going to be high. All right. And another note on just trying too hard. I see so many couples burning themselves out trying to time everything just perfectly. Healthy ovulation looks like clear fertile signs. So you have that cervical mucus, you're getting that LH peak, you're getting a good basal body temp rise, you're seeing predictable hormone patterns, and there's enough safety in the body for supporting reproduction, which is really going to show through in those fertile signs. Stress, underfueling, poor sleep, and inflammation all disrupt ovulation long before it shows up in your cycle. So, ovulation is not just about hormones, it's really about whether your body feels safe enough to reproduce. Okay. So, let's recap what healthy ovulation really looks like. We want to be seeing that peak type fertile mucus before ovulation. We want to be seeing an LH surge 24 to 36 hours prior to ovulation. Um, and LH is not something you have to track every single cycle if you are getting real consistent ovulation timing. It can become stressful to pee on sticks every month, especially if you have been trying for a long time. Using your other markers can be just as appropriate if you are getting consistency with LH. And then we're seeing a progesterone rise afterwards. So that can be seen in a sustained basal body temp, that can be double checked in a blood draw. It can also be checked with urine sampling at home. There are some pretty accurate test kits out on the market now, like Prove, that can be really supportive for that. And then best conception chances are the day before ovulation when that cervical mucus is present. Okay. So think about strategic timing, not constant pressure. If you have been told that everything looks normal, but you're not seeing these signs consistently, there is absolutely more to explore. And that's exactly where functional fertility support shines. And it's exactly what I do with my couples. If you have been trying for several cycles and want help understanding your ovulation patterns or your labs, your timing strategy, this is exactly what I do with my clients every day. You don't need more apps or more tracking devices. You need more clarity and just more ability to learn how to work with your body to support it how it was designed to function. Thank you so much for listening. I hope to see you next episode. Thank you for listening to this episode of the Fertility Dietitian podcast. If you enjoyed it, please leave a review to let me know what topics you want more of or less of. If you want to keep learning, subscribe at Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen to podcasts. Check out my website for more info on my private coaching program, Master Your Fertility, or my membership community, Fertility Blueprint. And don't forget my digital store. Come say hi on YouTube and Instagram. See you in the next episode.